Today we are taking a look at the first ever supplement for Streamlined Superheroes, and I didn't even write it. So let's take a look right after the intro. Hi folks, and welcome to Sharp Mountain Games. Here we talk about group role-playing games, solo role-playing games, and there are plenty of actual plays in the playlist. You can check out our print and PDF products at Amazon, Lulu, Drive-Thru, and Roll20, and they're all linked below. Let's get started, and we're glad you're here. So today we're taking a look at Streamlined Outlaws in the Outer Fringe. And this is by my friend Solospelunking, who's a great friend of the channel. And we email each other, so we do know each other. And it is $2.49 on Drive-Thru. You get it as a PDF, so it's very reasonable. Now, I just want to let you know this. You do need to buy Streamlined Superheroes to play it. That's just the way he set it up. I even offered to him to maybe include some of the character creation rules, but he said no, he didn't want to take away from the Streamlined Superheroes product. So I appreciate that. And Streamlined Superheroes, as of the recording of this video, is $2.99. So put that together and you're at $5.48 for both a superhero game and a supplement that lets you take it into the Star Wars universe. Now, Streamlined Outlaws in the Outer Fringe, it's kind of designed more of a sort of he calls it a sandbox board role-playing game. So it's a little bit of a hybrid. There's a lot of rules here that let you, generate sectors and generate jobs. So especially if you want to play this solo, it's great. If you don't want to play it solo, you want to run it for a group, you absolutely can do that. And I'm going to make a few suggestions if you want to do it as a group game. But what you might want to do then is roll your jobs and your sectors beforehand. Now, the author uses a bit of AI art, you can see, and it's kind of like the modern comic book style. So let's see. So, it's by Karsten Rossner, who is Solospelunking. And I have a link to the product down below. I have a link to Streamlined Superheroes down below. And I have a link where Solospelunking plays his Streamlined Outlaws game. And also, I have some links to other people who are playing Streamlined Superheroes so you can see what they're doing with it. If you're interested in mine, you can certainly check out my channel. Also new to the channel is the Buy Me a Coffee link. You don't have to, but it's there if you want. So let's take a look. So we get our table of contents, and it's close to 70 pages. So you get a little introduction about Nash Duncan, who is kind of his version of Han Solo. And let's get into things. So he talks about this. It's really very good if you want to run like a Firefly or a Han Solo and Chewbacca campaign where you're doing smuggling or doing jobs for the underworld. That's really what it's set up well for. Although certainly you could modify it if you wanted rebel missions, you want to be members of the Rebel Alliance. And he talks about what you need to play the game and what you need to get started here. So the thing that's different here is that instead of powers and skills like you'd use for a superhero. So if you want to do Batman, let's say Spider-Man, he's going to have his powers and then maybe his skill is photography and chemistry. Here you really just have skills. If you want a Jedi type character, what I'd say is you usually get 4 skills. Have 1 fewer skills and then they could have some kind of Jedi power and it would be like the superpowers. And it would still work absolutely just fine. And he does a really nice job of distilling the skills down, piloting, combat, athletics. I really like it keeps the list streamlined of all things. It's very easy to use. And these are kind of broad skill groups. Now for your ship, like one thing in Streamlined Superheroes is there's not a big focus on like ship-to-ship combat. You don't see that as much in a superhero type game or a superhero comic book or movie, but you will see that definitely in Star Wars or Star Trek or Firefly. So he has some things for starship combat, like handling could add a bonus to your roll for handling the ship of all things. And then these stats are explained in the rules chapter. So then we get into creating our sector. So if you're playing this solo, you can there's some roles here where you have a hex map sheet, which you can easily find those online. You roll a D8 to see what type of system you have, and is it under military blockade and things like that. And then you can set up your sector. This would even be useful, like I said, if you run a group game. Just do it beforehand, and it would save you a bit of time. And you can see with a lot of the artwork that it's Star Wars adjacent, because obviously neither myself nor Solospelunking owns Star Wars, and I don't get any money off of this. I should say everything goes to Solospelunking. I get money obviously off Streamlined Superheroes, but this is totally his product, and I just think it's great. I just think it's wonderful that other people are finding things in ways they want to adapt it and write it. So one thing that's a little different here, if you're playing this in the board game fashion, is renown. So you keep track of your renown, and basically you win when you get 10 renown. And there's certain situations where if you lose, like you lose an interaction or something, the enemy gets renown, and we see who wins. So it becomes very, like I said, it's a little more a role-playing board game. If you wanted to play it as a standard, straight-ahead role-playing game, you could just do that and then maybe don't use the renown. Or you could use it, and when as a team they get 10 renown, you say they win. Cinematic ending, and he talks a little bit about checks and challenges. One thing I do like that he does a little differently is he says, okay, if you're trying to break into a security system, I like his notation here. You have to get a total of 10 hurdle points, which are the effect die in Streamlined Superheroes, but you have to do it in 3 rounds. So I like that he has, and I have to think about that even for myself. So it's always good for me to see what other people do, because then maybe I'll adapt it. And then he talks about the round. And you might say, well, this is like a combat round. Sometimes, but it can also be, a role-playing counter. So there's a movement phase and an encounter phase and an action phase, and there's more about that later. Now, it could be combat. Absolutely, it could be combat. And he provides some Starship combat rules. So if you want to add Starship combat to Streamlined Superheroes or to Streamlined Outlaws, they're right here. And I think you could easily use the same thing if you want to do like World War II dogfights or something like that, if you want to run maybe a more pulp type game, like an Indiana Jones type game. And he talks about, okay, well, here's what we're adding. Hull points, which are basically hit points. Handling will add to your piloting roll. Usually that's going to be, probably a dexterity, and then the piloting skill is added to, the handling value is added to the effect die. And if you get an effect die of 6 or better, usually you get some benefit there. Speed, so you can have faster and slower ships, hyperspeed, shields, which shield points are reduced first when you take damage. So they're kind of like giving you extra hit points for your ship. And then he talks about, well, how do you evade? Okay, if you want to flee combat, you need 10 points within 3 rounds. And the X is the speed difference. So this is really nice because it's not too difficult to account for. Okay, if you're running a slow old rust bucket, versus a TIE fighter or something, the TIE fighter is obviously going to be faster. So he takes all that into account. And he gives you some Starship combat rules. And like I said, I don't want to go through everything here because I want to keep the video a reasonable length. You can see whether you're wanted, if you're put in possession of illegal cargo or you've been doing that. Then he gets into the world types. And he uses some of the similar ones in some of his other products as well. So he's upfront about that, that he's adapting this to this rule system. And here's what's nice. He gives you some thoughts on, okay, well, when you're on the planet and you have nothing to do, you might want to gamble or you buy legal cargo. You might want to sell your cargo. You want to do something with illegal cargo. And, want to get your ship upgraded. All sorts of things you could do, and he outlines them here and gives you some mechanics. So, if you're playing this solo, you're set. Or if you're playing it in a group and somebody, you think, well, how do I adjudicate that? It's all right there for you. So let's talk about, there's a job table here, or some job suggestions here. Deep space encounter table. Very nice. And again, for group games, just roll these up beforehand to see if there's a space pirates or something like that. Deals with if there's a military blockade. Oh, you never know with that Trade Federation or the Mandalorians here. They're mentioned here. Oh, Mandalorian bounty hunter has taken interest in you. Uh-oh. So, a lot of different tables here. It looks like they're mostly D8 tables, to really help you get your game together here. Space system encounters. So this is really, it is a toolbox. It is a toolbox set for your sandbox. Planetary encounters. And you could roll these while you're playing. You could roll them up beforehand. Let's see what else you get. Underworld jobs. Now here actually, some of these underworld jobs actually could also be Rebel Alliance jobs if you want to play in that era, like infiltration and data extraction. That sounds like totally the plot of Rogue One there, where they were trying to get the Death Star plans. Infiltrate and assassinate, illegal swoop racing, debt collection. So some of these maybe are more the big heist, if you're getting a side job from a Jabba the Hutt type. Weapons, where weapons add to the damage. So it's a little more variable than in straight up Streamlined Superheroes. So you can customize your character a little better if you prefer. All right, talks about ship upgrades and armor. And are we getting there? Yeah, we're getting close to the end. Yeah, and just different equipment that you could use. Some rules on carousing. And what to do when you want to level up. When you get 12 XP, you gain a level. And you advance according to the Streamlined Superheroes rule. Some carousing events here. Carousing encounters, some random tables for you. And then he gives some optional rules here. Gives some links to some hex grids if you want them. And these are always handy, is name generators. If you need a quick planet name or something, especially if you're playing a group game and they confuse you or something. So if you're playing it in the board game, give some victory conditions. Oh, it looks like we're close to ending with a kiss, and then our crew here. So almost 70 pages is what it clocks in at. So that's Streamlined Outlaws in the Outer Fringe. I have all the links you need below, and I'm just so grateful. It's so exciting to see your baby taking its first steps, and other people who are interested in doing this. So I hope you enjoyed the overview, and we'll see you next time.